I'm Rob Bernacki, and I found myself with Stephan Kesting in my closed guard. So I thought I'd share with you guys what to do if that ever happens to you. First thing to keep in mind is there are two problems that I have to address if I want to generate offense from the closed guard. One is I have to break my opponent's posture, and two, I have to mobilize my hips. So if Stephan's upright, I can't do very much to him, or even if he's down, but his elbows and his knees are connected, my hips are in a box. So I want to show you how to address both of those problems and create a submission out of this. So first thing I want to do is break Stephan's posture, but let's assume that he's not using his hands to interfere. So let's just say that he's just doing this, and I want you to stay upright, Stephan. I'm going to try to pull you forward. Really, really difficult. I'm pulling about as hard as I can with my knees. And the reason that it's not working as well as it could is my hips, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit of space between my hips and Stephan's hips. Our centers of gravity are separated. What I want to do is bring my hips as close to his to connect our centers of gravity, and then I'm going to, let's turn a little bit so people can see what I'm doing here. Then I'm going to climb my guard so that my knees are pinching up near your armpits and my heels are digging in. So I'm attaching my center of gravity to you. Now I want you to stay more upright for me.
Much harder.
Much harder, exactly. So there are two things that are in effect here. One is I'm connecting our centers of gravity. Two is by pinching my heel in and pinching my knees in, I'm actually creating a lever out of your torso. Right. Here, there's no lever, so I'm pulling you forward, and I've actually got a lever working against me. I'm almost like, for those of you who know the physics term, it's a moment arm. The farther away you are, the more weight is being put on the end of it. So me trying to pull you in here, I'm trying to move a very heavy weight with my legs. Here, we're attached, and as I pinch my knees and curl my heels, that attachment allows me to access the lever midline on his torso. So that's how you should try to pull somebody forward when you have them in the closed guard. And if you're failing, that might help you with that. Now let's assume that Stephan's arms are where they should be. So now this thing is not going to allow me to pull him forward. But because he's using two frames, and Jiu-Jitsu is essentially a game of frames and levers, I want to turn a frame into a lever into a frame. So I'm going to access the end of this lever, and so I'm still doing what I did before, heels curling, knees curling. I'm going to flare his arm and start to pull him forward. So I broke his structure by changing this frame into a lever. As I start to pull him forward, I'm slipping my arm underneath into an underhook. I'm keeping my chin close to his triceps. This is going to allow me to isolate the lever to his shoulder. I'm now controlling his posture indirectly, lever-based posture control. I'm going to check my watch. I'm going to clap my hands. This allows me to set a frame with my elbow against him. So if he tries to push into me, I can block him. Now, I've opened up the space between his elbow and his knee so he can no longer box my hip in. This allows me to hip escape, place my foot on his hip. As I do that, I'm transferring my right arm from his shoulder back to his, my left arm from his shoulder back to his elbow as I bring his wrist into the groove between my shoulder and my ear. This is allowing me to create what's called a reverse armbar. I'm going to hip escape now and hug the arm in. From another angle, I've brought my hips in, I've curled my heels, I've squeezed my knees. I'm going to now access this lever, flaring it, pull Stephan forward, slipping my arm underneath, bringing my chin tight. If I don't do this, if I just go like this, you can obviously pull your arm out. So I create this lever. I start to turn, and now, again, I'm checking my watch, I'm isolating this at the shoulder, ideally, to keep you broken down. Now I hip escape, I bring my right foot in on your hip, I'm going to transfer my bottom arm, in this case my left arm, to your elbow so I can add rotation. If I don't have rotational control and I try to do this, you can pull that elbow back in. So I'm gripping your elbow and rotating it.
I can't rotate it.
There you go. Now this arm is coming here as well. So I'm hugging almost like a tie plum, hugging around the elbow. You've probably seen this submission performed by Marcelo Garcia from the butterfly guard. A big issue that I find people have with finishing this reverse armbar is they get to here and they're hugging as hard as they can and they can't quite get it to go. And the reason for that is there's no space. I need to create space by keeping my right foot on the hip. Ideally, I'll put my left foot on the hip as well, and then I move my hips out, creating a massive amount of space here so that I can create a crunch. Very, very easy to get the submission at that point. This is called a reverse armbar, and it's helpful to think of it exactly as that. It's the reverse of an armbar. So with an armbar, I'm planting my feet, hugging your arm, and bridging. In this case, I'm planting my feet, hugging your arm, and hip escaping. I'm doing the exact opposite of what I would with an armbar.
Could you show the supplies from the butterfly guard? It's typically where Marcelo
Absolutely.
applies it
Again,
from.
Marcelo Garcia makes this famous by attempting a butterfly sweep. And when his partner posts, he comes underneath and then extends away to finish. This is one of the most dynamic submissions in Jiu-Jitsu.